the July 27th Waterboro Board of Selectmen's meeting. I ask everybody to rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Starting with announcements this evening. The first announcement tonight is a press release from the fire department. On Friday evening at 10:07 p.m., fire department received a call for a demolition pile on fire at the transfer station. Upon arrival, units had considerable fire and smoke coming from the rear area of the transfer station to the demolition wood pile, which contained about 350 yards of debris. Initial crew evaluated for hazards and nearby exposures. Contact was made with the DEP in consideration of water runoff upon extinguishment. The cause is yet to be determined and is under investigation by the York County Sheriff's Department and the Waterboro Fire Department. If anybody has information regarding this fire, please contact the Waterboro Fire Department at 324-3644. And it was quite a substantial fire. And we do have some damage to the asphalt that the pile was sitting on, not to mention the expense of the fire department's response. It took a couple hours and the fire was extinguished. There will be some pictures of it later on this evening on the town's website if anybody's interested in seeing what it was, and certainly if anybody has information about the fire, we would appreciate you giving the fire department or the sheriff's department a call. Any other announcements?
I don't know if anybody had occasion to see it, but there's a very good article on the front page of the Journal-Tribune regarding the Waterboro Library and its potential for possibly receiving some federal monies to assist with the construction of the library and community center. I thought it was pretty well done. And also, on another note, they've begun painting next door after having tested for lead, as some concerns were raised by Mr. Allen at one of our previous meetings. They did several test sites and found none, so they have begun painting over there, and it looks pretty good so far.
They used 5 gallons of paint on the ceiling today, and they didn't get it off one coat yet. It's just wood just sucking it right in.
Okay. We have no appointments this evening. Hearing a delegation? Seeing none. Correspondence. Reports. Town administrator's report.
Last week, we was discussing the planning board, and it is in the charter that the quorum shall constitute a majority of the appointed members. That was done in November of '08 with the Finance Committee, Planning Board, Road Review, ZBA, Assessing Board of Review, Fair Hearing, and the Public Safety Committee. I brought copies if anybody wants that. And today, we received a check from Mariner Tower that covers the prorated rent from April 5th to August 31st in the amount of $5,061.14. I asked Tammy Jo to check with the land trust to see if their share's going to come out of this, or if they get a separate check. See what's going on. That's the only 2 things I had.
Selectmen's report.
I'll do a little bit more next week, but I went down and to St. Stephen's and talked to the people about the food pantry and had an opportunity to see it start in operation. Pretty impressive. And I'll get some information as far as who to call and number as far as giving to the food pantry. What they especially need, of course, is money, because they have a lot more flexibility with the money as to what they buy. I saw one person come to the food pantry while I was there. They average about 8 to 12 people every Wednesday. And they ask people to come once a month. The person that came in, they had a family of 8. And really pretty impressive, the items that they had. I mean, they had chickens, and there was frozen meat, and there was fresh vegetables, corn brought in from a local farm, cucumbers. So a person that is working and just does not have the money to really support a fairly large family like this person, it really helps them get through. And it was pretty impressive. I'll get some more information on the food pantry at St. Stephen's, but it's right here in Waterboro, and they do quite a job.
Anything else? Okay, moving along, committee reports, Finance Committee. Finance Committee, you have a report tonight?
I thought it was a workshop.
You're on for your committee report tonight, and then we're having a workshop?
Oh, the workshop's after?
Yes.
Oh, all right. I thought it was just a workshop. I'm not prepared with anything. I thought we were just having a workshop to go over next year's budget.
Well, since the last time you were here, has there been much activity with the Finance Committee?
Well, we lost 2 members, so we need 2 more members for the committee. We met, when was our last meeting? The 12th? All right, the 12th, I'm guessing on the day. And we didn't have a quorum. Well, I guess we did have a quorum. There was 2 people. I was under the impression there needed to be a quorum of 5, with 5 people, so 3 people would be a quorum, so we really didn't have a meeting. So I guess we can have a meeting with 2 people since there's only 3 appointed members. So that's where we're at. We need 2 more members, and
Okay.
that's it. Unless you have any questions for me.
No? Thank you. Okay. Next, moving on to new business. David? Over the past month or so, the Selectmen met to discuss the town administrator's review for the past year and to talk about the directives that we were going to give her for the ensuing year. And as we looked at that, we wanted to make sure that we had all the tools that were in place so that she could be successful in the directives that we were giving her. And one of the things that we are going to be looking to strive for in the upcoming year is improving on the efficiencies here at Town Hall, working on better customer service, making sure that the staff has the tools that they need to be efficient in their positions. And in doing so, the Board of Selectmen, after meeting with Nancy and discussing it with Nancy, have decided to restructure the staff here at Town Hall. We did meet with staff last Thursday, and we explained it to staff, and we just wanted to present this to the public so the public understands what our plan is going into the near future. This is something that we are going to begin implementing immediately. This is going to be done in phases, but our ultimate goal is to have this done by October of 2010. The way that, go to the next slide. The way that we are going to restructure is we're going to break the town hall office up into different departments. First department is going to be the administrative department. The administration is going to consist of the Board of Selectmen, the town administrator, and we are going to have an administrative assistant to the town administrator. This administrative assistant to the town administrator is a brand new position. And it will be a confidential, non-union employee who will be working under the direct supervision of the town administrator, and he or she will be assisting the administrator with his or her duties. The position of administrative secretary to the Board of Selectmen is being eliminated. The board felt that the position that served our full-time town administrator would be more beneficial than a staff member who was serving a part-time board. The next department we're going to have is the finance department. This will consist of the town treasurer, and the board is going to appoint a deputy treasurer. The deputy treasurer is going to help our treasurer with her duties. We're striving to have staff, all of our staff, cross-trained to serve in different positions. One of the, our treasurer has told us that it would be nice for her to have some assistance now and again, and as she put it, if she ever got run over by an oxen in her town, in her fairs and whatnot, there really wasn't anybody that could step into her place. So we want to make sure that we have somebody on board that is completely cross-trained to work in her position so that we have that flexibility to fill that vacancy if necessary. We're also, our front end is going to be known as our service department. That's going to be our town clerk, the general assistants, the motor vehicle agent, and the tax collector. The town clerk is going to be appointed as our deputy treasurer, and that person is also going to become a service leader. Our general assistant is no longer going to serve as the assistant to the assessing agent. Oh, back up, David. Thank you. But the general assistant is going to take on the task of being our deputy town clerk, and they're going to assist in the front end cover. One of the things that we really want to make sure that we're doing on the front end, we've learned this year that we are a small staff, and when we have vacancies on the front end and then you throw in that there's somebody on vacation or there's somebody out sick, we've experienced times this year where we've had only one person working the front end. And that is a huge burden to that person, and it's also not the best customer service, because then we have people that are coming in and having to wait inordinate amounts of time to have service done. So we need to make sure that we always have a minimum of 2 people working the front end, and that we have enough employees that are cross-trained so that we can fill in on the front end when that's necessary. So there will always be at least 2 people working the front counter. And again, our town clerk is going to become our service leader for the front. The next department that we're going to be dealing with is going to be the planning department. We're going to be merging planning and assessing so that it is all under one department. That makes the most sense. It takes 2 entities that should be together and brings them together. The secretary that we have now is going to become the secretary for the CEO, the town planner, the planning board, and the assessing agent. This actually brings that position back to what it was years ago. Also in that will be the assessing agent, the town planner, and the code enforcement officer. The other, and that's how we are going to restructure that. We're going to be, like I said, we're going to be implementing this immediately. We're going to be moving forward with our plans, and we feel that it is in the best interest of the community to do this. Not only do we feel that it's going to be better for the community, we feel it's going to be better for our staff. We're hoping to mix up the workload a little bit so that there's a fair dispersion, and so that we make this a better environment for our staff as well as for our customers. So that's the plan that the selectmen are going to be working on, and like I said at the beginning, we're hoping to have this all in place by October. That's all for new business. We're going to now move into our workshop. Our workshop this evening was department heads and the finance committee, and we're going to review the 2010-2011 budget to start, and I will turn that over to Nancy.
I can tell you right now, that first slide is probably about as exciting as it's going to get. I'm going to start off with, we have new departments. Our auditor for several years has told us we need to make a change and have our departments just show the operating budget. So this year, we took out the leases are a new department. The IT is a new department. Municipal facilities is also a new department. And out of the fire department, we took the hydrant rental and Ross Connor out. And we have one more, which is the CIP. So actually, what is on the reports right now, when the departments look at them, is strictly operational. Can you do the next one, the comparable? Okay, this is a comparable of the 2011, which is our current fiscal year, and the 2010, last year's fiscal year. What we have done, the leases, I picked on the fire department because it was easy to pick on, and Matt's not here, so. The hydrants, you can see the hydrants and leases in Ross Connor. Last year, if they wanted to know what they had for a balance in their budget, they would have to look at their report, back out Ross Connor, back out the hydrants, back out the leases in both the departments, and the Department 75 and 70 to see what they have left for operational. This year, all they have to do is look at the bottom line. All of that has been taken out. The computers and the web, out of all the departments, are now underneath the IT department, so all the purchases will come out of that department instead of, okay, we gotta, let's see, this was bought for the library, this one was bought for the fire department, so everything is all underneath one department. Yeah, I was gonna go into, Julie and I had the same slide, so I pulled my slides out and I'm gonna let her explain when she gets to the new ones. But this is just can you slide down to show what the difference is? Okay, see the difference in combining and removing some of them? The report is just going to be operational. Granted, there probably will be a few more expenses added to it. But right now, as of today, there's a big difference in the length of the reports. I'll just quickly go over the purchasing, municipal purchasing policy. I know the department heads, this is just kind of a quick overview. We do have a copy of it on our bulletin board that we have available for all the department heads to access. Basically what this does, it standardizes the purchasing procedure for the town. It has all kinds of definitions in it. It has the definition for the approved vendors, bids, competitive bidding, informal bid, field purchase, formal bid, cooperative purchase. Everything is spelled out on what needs to go out to bid and what kind of bid is going to be required. Can you go to the highlighted, please? There is just one thing I want to remind the department heads of. Right there. Most of the departments are doing this, but I just want to remind everybody that when the invoice is submitted for payment, it needs to have the purchase order attached. It also needs to have any packing slip or anything attached, and it also has to have the account number that it's going to be paid out of and the vendor number. So all of that is on the invoice when it's submitted. And on that bulletin board again, once a month we have the vendor numbers and all the department numbers, and we update it on a monthly basis on any new vendors. And that's another thing too. If you're ordering something new from a vendor, please have them fill out the proper paperwork instead of sending in the invoice and then Julie has to contact them and say, we can't pay this without the W-9. So with the vendor list available to everybody, and you do not see that vendor on there, please make sure that the paperwork is filled out before you submit the invoice. This was updated in December of '08, the whole purchase order policy, so, where I really wanted to point out that part. Any
Anybody else?
questions? There's also copies over there on the table, hard copies if somebody wants one.
Julie?
When do you want to start?
Well, they do look a little bit different this year.
Right.
So I think it would be a great idea for you to go right from the start, walk us right through a TRIO report so that everybody is reading them the same way.
This is your expense summary. It's listed by your department. Each department has their own, and you will be receiving one similar to this, but I'll show later. But your account numbers are your first to the left. Then this is what you have for a budget. This is your nets and your credits and your debits. The debits is what we have expended. The credits, if any money is given back or refunds to like that to get your year-to-date total. The unexpended balance is pretty much self-explanatory. That's what you've got left in your line to expend, and the percent shows to the far right of what you have expended. Later down the line, when these figures start showing the red, means you've overexpended, and that's what you've got to deal with because it's your bottom line. It's set up for each department. This is updated every time I either post the payroll or the payables, such as this week there was 2 warrants that you folks are signing and the payroll. This does not reflect them, reflects the payroll, but I set these up in the process of doing today's work. And as Nancy showed, each department has their own budget, from the general government, the tax assessor, the treasurer, library, transfer station, road review, Fred has a budget, and that's pretty much self-explanatory. David, if you go to the very last page, that will show the entire budget and that the town has, and what expend of it is, to the far right, is the expense that has been expended as of this date is 8.73, I think. Then that far right column of your total budget as of today. And we've just finished our first month of the new year. Any questions on the expense summary?
This was the last week for accruals,
Thank you.
so any bills that come in now that were, well, before June 30th will come out of this year's budget.
David, if I can go to expense detail?
Julie, on the percentage expended, is there a way in TRIO to show what percentage we should be at, and then the percentage that actually has been to show on a weekly basis?
Not as far as TRIO is gone. We did a report here last year during, I think Nancy and I made a presentation to show in past years and different quarters. It's basically, other than figuring, well, it'll help having the leases and those major expenses out of there. And it should be based on really figuring a quarter, half, 75%, and figuring it by the month. Divide your budget by 12 months is the way that I was always taught to do it, and based on that, you percentage it. But if, say, for the library is placing a big book order beforehand, that just makes it slower, so at the other end that they can't buy so much. But when you've got sales, that's where the department head comes in on knowing what their own budget is and how they prepared it, basically.
Yeah, I think what you gotta watch, if you're looking at what run rates are and those kind of things, what you have to be cognizant of is that if we pay certain things, we'll pay in this first quarter of the year.
Right.
In full, right?
Right.
So
Sure.
everybody get nervous and say, gee, we already spent 100% of the budget. Well, yeah, those particular line items will be. So that's, you can't react just to the
Right.
big number. You gotta
No.
look at the detail and
Very true.
Is there a procedure between you and Nancy and the department head if a line item comes up and is, in your estimation, in your opinion, it's getting pretty close to being expended, or there's a red flag comes up there, what happens there? If you see something that you're concerned about, do you go to Nancy, and then how does that work?
We had this, what was it, the first quarter last year, Nancy, when I presented that, and you, if I remember right, it was the bottom line that was more concerned than anything, because I know some municipalities and present a budget that shows line items, but we don't have a line item budget. We have a bottom line budget, right? And other than that, if it's presented that, you're counteracting yourself if going by a line item versus the bottom line. If the reports are presented in a timely fashion to you folks, and I can download them, you'll be seeing them, with Lord willing, at least twice a month and hopefully every week. So that, and I send them as a PDF file, and that shows that if the budget is overexpended, it shows red. Otherwise, if I print it out and we kill more trees, it just prints out black. And the same way when we get into another budget, I'll show you that it prints blue when we've received more money than what we figured we was going to get.
Okay,
But
so
that's your call, I guess, more than anything.
So, I mean, you've got, you're giving, there's a bunch of people getting these reports. Nancy's getting the report, the department head's getting the report, the selectmen end up with a report.
As of right now, the departments have not been getting them as regular as they should have. Okay? They normally were run on monthly, and if the department head requested it early, before that, I run them off whenever they requested them. But in the past years, up till last year, the department heads was run monthly after the bank recs and everything was balanced. And because of the situation, we haven't been running them as often, but they can be, and they can be forwarded by email to everybody. You folks are the ones that basically get it in the finance committee, and I forward a copy to Nancy, so Nancy is aware of whom I have forwarded all these reports to.
Okay, so over the years now, and basically, the years you've been here, you've seen how expenditures tend to flow. I mean, in some areas, there's most of the expenditures made early in the year, and in some areas it's spread out evenly throughout the year. So if you see something that doesn't look normal, it looks a little abnormal, then do you highlight it and go to Nancy with it?
Yeah, email it or hand, most of the time I've hand carried it and walked over and given it to her and asked, what are we doing, is this right?
And then I usually forward it on to the selectmen.
Yep.
Make you aware.
Anything else? David, you all set?
Yeah.
The report you're seeing here is a more detailed, the summary is basically by line. This one shows here all the actions that have been taken for the month of July. Each line is, if you see for the salaries, you're seeing your payroll for the 7th, 14th, 21st, and the 28th. And with the debits, of course, is what we're paying out. This can be run if the department heads request it, as you see, for the entire town, it's 21 pages. Most of the time, it's been just the summary reports that have been forwarded, but there is one more report that I'll show. This is basically what has been sent to the individual departments to have at their fingertips. But this is something that is available, and it can go one step farther. I can bring out an expense report by vendor, so it will show exactly, say, if the fire department is buying from AA fire extinguishers, they'll see how much they can have expended over the year. Or if the selectmen request to see if one vendor, how much money is being spent by them, expended to them, I can do that as well. Where David is right now, you can see the expense that says the rapid renewals. That is just for the costs of them that comes in. But this is just
So-
detailed by
So this will
department.
never get any smaller than 21 pages?
It's only going to grow.
Right.
It's going to grow. The more we spend, the more it grows. Okay? Anything on that? Revenue summary, please.
laser pointers.
No, I might hit somebody.
I want to know that I'm looking at the same thing that she's looking at.
Well, if not, you point and I'll tell you yes or no, sir. How's that? I
Okay.
know your aim is better than mine. This is your revenue summary by departments. The first column is by the codes for each thing, such as liquor licenses, marriage licenses, boat excise. You'll see there's a boat rapid renewal. That is what comes in over the phone, over the automatically paying. Thank you. And then you'll also see it for the motor vehicle rapid renewal at 4134. These are the lines that come directly into the system that show they're already prepaid, and they have to be manually posted through GL entries. Those cannot be done until the actual deposit has been made to the bank. Some reason, every once in a while, the states are either 1 cent more or 1 cent less than us, and it's paid to wait to, once it's hit the account, then to post it, versus making reverse journal entries, as you're getting quite a pile of entries to sign as it is, so you don't need any more. But your credits are your receipts in, your debits would be various reasons of expenditure for specific line or where we've paid out. Your total year-to-date, the figures, the general government, as you can see, is supposed to have 146,000 plus. And if you come down to, let's say, your lien fees, it says $10,000 we're projecting that we've got. We've only taken in $706.31 as of today. And when you see the blue figures, if you go down through, those are figures above. As you'll see, there's nothing was projected for the boat rapid renewal, the dock fees and licenses, because those automatically goes to another line. But that, your blues, and if I send it PDF, that will show up. So if, say, can you scan down, David, a little bit? Keep going. Right there, it's good. The library, for instance, if Ruth collects more than, I think that says 2,600 in the fines, that she will show that it's in the blue. She gained more money than what they projected in her budget. And the same way, we're like in the next one, Department 55, is Mike's, and you've got your camp activities, and it says that he should have got 34,250. He's 56.5% collected at all. Sports activities and summer recreation, those have not been credited to as of yet. And the American Legion Baseball, from what I understand, we won't be getting much money in that because it's being handled outside of the municipality as far as funds this year. But that is basically, and then if there's no questions on this, they'll show a detailed revenue summary, and it'll show each day's actual deposits. For like Clint's, can you go to 80, Department 80, please? Right there. You can see how many of his are broke down into the different departments, and we can add more if he wishes. For instance, right now, we've been paid $6,200 and change for the stumps being ground. That was by the grinders. And he is doing well on the, you can see your dump stickers are 35% collected for the town. And basically that breaks down everything that he is collecting from the transfer station. His is one of the most detailed of it because he wanted to know his revenues for each item. Yes, Frank?
Where's the recyclable bottles that he collects?
Doesn't show there. No. No, that goes to Clint can answer that.
That goes right to the
GA.
GA. We get none of that.
So it shows up in a GA? Is it line item?
Should show as a revenue for GA, right?
That's right. So we can tell at the end of the year how much we did.
So Liz,
There hadn't been any collected as of this quarter. or
but
this month.
if you went to GA,
There would be
here.
in the donations.
right,
All of them were.
Okay, and it can be broke down. If you, revenue detail, please. So, and go back down to Department 80. That,
Sticky mouse. There you go.
that shows each day's receipts that he has received for, like, for the stumps, the money came in on the first July 7th. And for his miscellaneous charges, that's items that's not covered by the detail.
Came in on the 7th and burnt on the 29th.
So, but that is available also so that they can see, the departments can see exactly what's coming in daily. Any questions? GL summary, please. Your GL summary is basically your showing your various checking accounts, the liabilities, carry forwards, and to that expense, I gotta look at my own crib sheets. You have your checking accounts, there is the amount, if David, if you pan down slowly, there's for personal property, tax receivables, what they figure we should have, and what you've written. And it goes on for personal property, various, for your tax liens amounts. And then when you get down to your liabilities, this shows what you're paying out for your motor vehicle fees, your state revenue fees, and any of your carry forwards from that point on. Basically, the only ones that get the copy of the GL have been the Selectmen, Nancy, and the Finance Committee.
So Julie, Dave, if you can scroll back up to taxes. Once we set the tax rate, which Jerry's going to talk about in a minute. Once we set the tax rate, the expected amount of money,
Right?
taxes will get journaled into this, and then we look at.
Then it should be, yeah, we journaled in once he sets those figures, yes.
Like the tax receivable right now, that's what was, as of the end of the year, those were the taxes owed from last year, right? So that's the expected number that.
Yes, sir.
Right,
And those, the only thing that will update those will be during the audit.
okay.
Okay?
Yeah, the, sorry.
No, go ahead.
The, when the commitment is done, it shows up underneath Department 10 underneath the revenues, but the payments, the receivables show up on the GL. So you kind of have to have two reports, run two different reports to see how much is collected.
Always,
1 year you gave me authority to move that journal entry and
we spent a number of hours once on the phone with TRIO, right, trying to figure
Yes,
out
sir.
why doesn't that jive, and there's a whole bunch of accounting reasons that it doesn't, but, so unfortunately, you gotta look at the GL to look at what's been collected for taxes
in the revenues.
in the revenue to look at what was committed. Kind of crazy.
And the last one, David, expense revenue summary report.
Can I ask you a question on that, Julie?
Yes, ma'am.
The property taxes that are past due, the ones from 2000, 99, whatever, the 10-plus years old, how long do we keep those on the books before we foreclose or lien the property? I would assume it's liened.
They've
The
been
property
leaned,
taxes
but
at that far.
finally can't be written off through, I believe it's, Nancy, it's a little bit above my range, still the board authorizes to be written off, am I correct?
Yeah, we did put, you've got quite a few of them this year, right, Jerry? What year did we do? 99, was it? Through, was it 2004 or 3?
Yeah, for all, but
Yeah.
Tina, for
It was
all
mostly
practical
personal
purposes,
property.
the town owns all that property.
They do own it, so they have, we'll say, foreclosed on it for, how come we don't sell it?
We, on an annual basis, we do get a list from Julie. We run an auction occasionally, which was very successful last time. But that's typically the methodology to dispose of them. And we just recently, last year or the year before, changed the tax acquired property ordinance, which kind of dictates how you go about getting rid of that property, which traditionally has been an annual auction, right? Most of the time, it's been LAC lots that are not buildable. You know, we've done about everything possible to at least market them or whatnot, and I think
We
the
got rid of a
last...
hunk of them last
Yeah,
year.
yeah, we
We did well.
Right, because we kind of, instead of running a public auction, we kind of said, hey, if you're a landowner and you've got an adjacent property, there's an opportunity for you to increase the size of your lot. Can't build on it, but I mean, a dwelling on it. But the last auction we ran was 2 years ago, 3 years ago.
3 years ago.
And we did bring in $18,000, $19,000, right? But then people don't close and,
We also have some properties where we have agreements with the property owners that they're making payments, trying to catch their taxes up, even though we still have active liens on them. They have to sign a contract with us on minimum monthly payments that they make on the back taxes. So we do have some properties that are by agreement as well.
And, to just go a little bit farther on what Tammy Jo says, the majority I can think of, there's only 2 that really have fallen behind. They have been paying back, and so it's coming forward for the liens are getting, the older ones are being alleviated, being paid off. But there are a couple that their contract doesn't mean anything to them, so I don't, that's the next step. Okay?
Diane?
Yeah, I think just for clarification too, that you have 2 sets of taxes. You have your real estate taxes and you have your personal taxes. Real estate taxes, you can lien and go through that procedure and go through the foreclosure and the auction. And the personal taxes, that's the ones that are still receivable. You can't lien the personal taxes.
and we've attempted to make take some action on overdue personal property tax in the last couple of weeks, or last month anyway. I've had discussions with Jerry. But the other thing that, just so everybody is aware, you see the negative $17,000 for 2011 taxes. But that's what people have paid ahead. So that's money in the bank. It just happens to show as a negative here, but so that people have already paid all or portions of their 2011 taxes, even though we haven't set a tax rate in credits.
And it is quite a long procedure. So we have, 3 mature tax liens before we can go to auction. So it's a procedure to even get to the mature tax lien. Because, for instance, tax bills go out, say, this September, and they're not, whatever is not paid in August, the tax collector sends out a 30-day notice. If they don't pay, and then the lien is put on. And then it's 18 months from when that lien is filed that it's foreclosed on. So you have to have 3 of them before we go to auction. It's a long process.
All set on this? Sketch revenue summary report, please, David. By department. This is a report that in the past has been sent to each department. And it shows, first it shows their revenues. And if you scan down just a little bit, David, it'll go into the expenses. Each department in the past has received these. It's a 1 or 2 page report for each department. I print it out separately, that way the departments could get it, and otherwise I can send it wholly for the board. But this is just the same thing what you've seen prior, is just combining the expense report with the revenue report for each individual department. And if any of the departments see anything that they've got a question on, please do not hesitate to come and ask, and if it is wrong, we'll get it rectified. If you want further detail, I will take care of that too. Other than that, I think that's all, folks.
Any other questions for Julie?
The bottom line number you mentioned before, when you would ask a question about being a certain line being overexpended, is it bottom line by department or bottom line by town?
The overall budget is by town, but departments is by the department. Am I right, Nancy?
What was raised in that article? on town meeting floor is the bottom line for that department or summary of departments or whatever. So, but the individual line items within that, okay, we don't budget by those line items, even though that the budget is made up of projected expenditures, right, by line item. The bottom line number is what is managed to on that department. And then ultimately, the bottom line of I think there was a discussion a number of years ago about, well, the town has this much money and, you know, you need permission to spend all of those line items, and that's really not true. You get permission at town meeting to spend this much money for fire and rescue, this much money for transfer station, et cetera, et cetera. So it's not, well, you know, I needed, you know, a gross of lights for the town hall, and you didn't spend it, so that money goes back. I mean, ultimately, it's in that account.
Anything else, Julie?
If I could ask one question, David, are you online so I can email you? You still want hard copies?
Hard copies for about another week.
Okay, no problem.
Good. Thank you, Julie.
Thank you.
Let me get David an iPhone.
Oh, no, I hear those don't work that great. Here's the,
Yeah, we have two right here at the table.
next, the man of the hour, Jerry, answering the question everybody wants to know, how is the tax rate set?
David, am I moving on? Yep. How about the sound?
Yep.
So it's going to be on the screen.
Not only does he have a presentation, he has a handout.
Right. He probably wants to use the pointer.
And he has his own pointer.
Dave, you know, we didn't discuss the closeness of these numbers. Okay. What you have before you is a tax rate calculation sheet. And it's in the town's TRIO software. You notice at the top it says 2010. What it doesn't do is tell us that that's fiscal year 2011. So every year when we decide to work on this, we have to remember that the computer knows that it's 2010, and you want to know that it's FY 2011. The interesting thing about this form, it's in the computer and it's live. So if I were to add a brand new house tomorrow morning, and the brand new house was worth $200,000, this figure would change, and it would pick it up. If I took and said that a barn was lost, it was worth $10,000, automatically it affects this number. So what I'm saying is these numbers here that affect the total valuation a lot. When we decide to set the tax rate, which is normally around the end of August, what we do is we will take the final printout, if you will, and we have to remember that if we do take the final printout, all of these other numbers are going to be final as well. At that time, we present them, or I present them to the Board of Selectmen, and they determine whether they're going to set a tax rate. I'll go back up here, and if you follow, this is the total valuation of real estate. That includes all of the existing real estate that we had in the computer last year, along with any adjustments that we have made this spring. Most of it is involved in new construction of real estate, garages, sheds, additions, alterations, new houses, etc. The personal property is also an addition to what existed there last year, and we pick up some new accounts, and we'll add that up and install it here. and we get the total. Once we get the total, it's just the beginning of what it is we do to set the tax rate. The next thing we're looking for is exemptions. This is what takes away from the total of the tax rate amount once we get down to this part here. This is the homestead exemption. This is how much we have homestead valuation that's exempt from taxation. This is what we get back from the state of Maine. It's less this year than it was last year. We're also giving the taxpayer, the state is, less homestead exemption, which means they'll pay more tax. Something like $80, I believe, something like that per account. This comes from the state, although this year they told us they wouldn't pay us all this year, they would pay us a little this year, and I believe the remainder would come in the following tax year. But that's the state's way of
budgeting gimmicks.
yeah, state's way of paying us later. The check's in the mail again. This is Betty. This is a reimbursement for certain types of exemptions on personal property that the state allows. This year we ended up with 2. Actually, they keep track of what we gave last year. This is the state now. This filling out of the municipal tax rate form also fills out another form. It's called the Municipal Valuation Report. That is also computerized in this software. Parts of that is also live. That one goes to the state. I'm not so sure that they can't get it when they want it, but we do send it to them electronically in the end of October. Every year, they get a complete report. I think it runs about 10 to 12 pages. Again, in the old days, we had to fill those in and type them. At least today, this is all done by computer, and it's much faster. Then we get down into this gross figure, which we're not at the point of setting the rate yet. What we also have to look at is the taxes or assessments, they call them here. This is what is going to be, or has been added for the town to pay. The county tax, for instance, $388,200. Municipal appropriation, this is what the town meeting voted to raise, and this is very important because we can't raise the money from or in a tax rate without this. Tax increment financing, we don't have any. It's the same. It's the same thing the town of Northborough has for Pratt Whitney. They have a tax increment financing, and it's a certain way of setting up the financing by the town and a general level tax paying plan over a period of time. But we don't have anything like that. Although we could someday. Local appropriation, this is the SAD 57. And total assessments is got a value of $10,938,115. Can you go up a little bit, Dave? Oh, you were ready to go up. How high did you go up, Dave? Okay. The state also gives us municipal revenue sharing. It's a lot less this year than previous. But that's the way things are going in Augusta. They don't have much to give us, I guess. Other revenues would include surplus and some of the items on the budget that was approved at town meeting. You put that all together. These are the total deductions, which we would be subtracting from this figure here, which is all the assessments added together. The net could be raised by the tax rate is this amount here. The computer automatically, this software automatically computes that we can go 5% over the allowable tax. And the reason for that is if we raise more than 5% of the tax at any one time, the entire tax is invalid. I mean, you just can't be on the tax bills, and it's an invalid tax. And so in order for us not to do that, we will set the minimum, and this comes out, maximum, excuse me, and this comes out every time in the calculations. We then divide the amount needed to be raised by taxes, by the total valuation that the town has gathered. And here in this case, it's we end up with the minimum tax rate, which is $11.28 thereabouts. The tax rate, the maximum tax rate, using the same math here, is $11.08, or 85 cents, excuse me. It's 11.28.29. This is 11.85. The one that you would select, which is this one right here, selected rate, is $11.60. This is what is in the computer today to raise enough money to be able to pay the amount that was raised at the town meeting, taking away all of the deductions we mentioned, and including all of the money that the state sends us. This is the tax for commitment. The overlay is, we selected this tax rate, by the way, $11.60. It hasn't been set yet, and it won't be until the selectmen approve that. The amount raised over the amount needed to pay the town meeting amount is called overlay. The overlay is nothing more than being able to raise enough money to meet the amount raised at the town meeting, and at the same time not go over the maximum. You really can't go under the minimum. So what it is, it's enough money for you to be fitting into that space, if you will. And all of the monies that are raised in the overlay, those undesignated surplus. It's could be used for other things, but the assessment manual and Maine Municipal Association will tell you that overlay is really to take care of the fractions and fractional assessments and fractional dollars that you will encounter as you attempt to set the tax rate. I don't know, is there a bottom of this? No, I think that is the bottom. That's it. Yeah, you prepare the municipal tax warrant. Municipal tax warrant is nothing more than all of these figures, especially the ones where you select for the tax rate, and it automatically comes out on these forms. They go to the selectmen, and this is how they produce what we call the commitment. It goes to the tax collector, a copy to the town treasurer, and that gives the tax collector the authority to collect the tax. And if not paid, you get into this lien business that we were talking about. And then this is the municipal valuation report, which is also provided to the state so they'll know what it is we're doing. And they get that from every municipality in the state of Maine. Any questions at all on the dollars or any of the things shown on the tax rate? Yes?
Can I, correct me if I'm wrong, Jerry, but we were discussing here, number 8, the municipal appropriation, that's the amount that's raised
Can you get down a little bit?
for taxes. That's not the total town meeting budget. That doesn't include like your excise tax,
No.
your surplus, whatever.
No.
That's just what was raised out of taxes.
That's right. That amount would come out of here. Other revenue. I didn't say that, but that's where the other revenues are. Including, I think it says it right here, if I can read it. I'm too close, I can't read it. Tree growth, reimbursement, and other tax revenues, tax excise. Anything else?
Jerry, could you tell us what, define personal property? What constitutes personal property?
Personal property is that property that is not affixed to the real estate. It can be moved. It's movable, taxable property. The easiest thing would be where Dave is sitting. All of the computerized equipment is movable in this room. The cameras would be movable, the flag, the desk, the table.
Is there a minimum amount there? Or,
Towns set the minimum amount because of this. If it's a say it's a $12 tax rate, you're not going to want to tax too much below $1,000, but you're going to send somebody a tax for $12. So I think 500 in some communities is the bottom. In some communities, I hear them say that we don't tax anything under 1,000. Others will say 2,000. The town can set it. Here, we don't go below 500.
is that just with businesses? Because, I mean, in a personal home,
Yeah.
if I have a business and I buy a $5,000 stove for a, is that a personal property that needs to be accounted?
If it's in business, yes. If it's in a home, no. So you're using it, you're operating it as a business. So if you bought that stove and you were cooking something and you sold it, for instance, there's an ice cream shop here, not too far, out of a barn. That would qualify as personal property, only because the equipment was brought in. If the equipment was taken out, it goes back to a barn.
Okay, so that each business needs to account for anything, I mean, if there's $200 cases, do they have to account for that too, or?
Well, what we would say is officially,
Yep,
the
okay.
answer would be, it's file it, and we'll decide as to whether it's. But if it were $200 and they didn't report it, no harm comes to them. Anything else?
Is that the antenna that's missing off my radio?
No, it's been turning off of my radio.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Jerry?
The tax rate that gets set, it's somewhere between 11.28 and 11.85. Does the board just want to figure out how much surplus they have? Is that how you decide on, we'll say 11.60?
There's a number of things that I think come into that. Number one, which we've been somewhat guided on, is that the budget is, or the tax rate is the expectation is that you're going to collect all that tax. And we know traditionally there's a 4 or 5% lag in payment. So if in other words, if we plan to collect the 8.5 million and there's all of a sudden 10% of the tax base that doesn't come in, right? Then you don't collect all the tax base. Even though that there is a line item, as you saw in Julie's reports, for the taxes due from previous years, all right? There's no guarantee that you collect any of that, basically. So there's somewhat of a buffer for abatements, for uncollected taxes, just as an anticipation. But Jerry's absolutely right. If that money is set in overlay, it goes into unappropriated surplus by definition, okay?
At the end of the fiscal year.
At the end of the fiscal year.
It's also used to, for any, somebody's their taxes and it's not correct. And the correction is going to be more than what they paid in their tax bills, and we use the surplus to reimburse them that. It's also used to correct any, can't think of the word, to equal out any taxes.
So the decision is, when we make the decision, is looking at what's happened in the past couple of years. It's also wanting to keep the taxes as low as possible, but at the same time leaving yourself some surplus to deal with in case the worst-case scenario happens, that you need to pay out some of these things. So it's that decision that you make to you don't want to leave yourself short, but at the same time, you want to keep the tax rate low.
If I remember correctly, last year, the tax rate was set at the maximum, or close, very close to the maximum. If it wasn't the maximum, what was the surplus under
3%.
63010?
I think we were, what, 300?
I got it right here. It was $336,000.
36.
So we had $336,000 in surplus that you put in for fiscal year 11?
And what was budgeted in budget for 11 was the consumption of that surplus.
Let's suck that up. We spent that.
In other
Oh, I
words,
know we spent that, but I'm
so,
just,
so in other words, that surplus, when we went into the budgeting season this year, if you scroll up to the other revenues, right, well, you don't have to go up anymore. The 2.1 million other revenues, line 13, we appropriated $300,000, I believe. Actually, we might have even gone 350. Nancy, I guess you'd have that number. We appropriated $350,000 on unappropriated surplus to budget expenses in this fiscal year, the year that we've now just entered. There's nothing to do. Now, in the past, we have looked at if we've set the, I think we've been all over the map here, at least in my tenure as a selectman over the years, we've set it at barely enough to cover the potential of abatements, okay? And we've set it at 5%, depending on, it's kind of a, I'm not sure that there's any one given model that says you always do it this way, all right? Now, there would be some towns do always set it at the max, and they're always utilizing those funds, or some of those funds, in the next fiscal year to minimize tax increase.
The problem there is that when you set it for the max, then you're dependent on it. So once you have a fairly large undesignated surplus, then you depend on that to keep your for next year. So
the other
it kind of goes both ways.
The other thing that comes into play, and if you look over the last 10 or 12 years, you'll see that there's a fund balance at the end of the year. Fund balance is those monies that are in the fund at the end of the fiscal year when we close the books, right? And you'll see that the fund balance has been up as high as 3.1, 3.2 million, okay? And it started to drop by over the last 2 or 3 years, not this most recent year, where we minimize the tax increase. That fund balance starts to come down because you're consuming more unappropriated surplus than what's going back in, okay? So that has an effect on the fund balance. Where that comes into play is as you start to look at the cash flow of the municipality, a couple of things enter into that. 2 years ago, over time, I should say, but it really hit us 2 years ago, was we had pushed out the collection dates of taxes into November timeframe and into May timeframe, which started to have a negative effect on cash flow. So what happened is that because we had no real buffer, we were actually draining the swamp, if you will. We were using more surplus than what we were taking in, and we delayed the amount of the dates that the cash was coming in. We had an issue where, we get down to the checkbook, gets to the point where you're going to make a $500,000 cash payment to RSU 57 on the 21st day of the month, and that money is now, really squeaky whether it's there or not. And doesn't mean the town is broke, because the tax collection dates happen a month later, and all of a sudden, you get $4 million in tax revenue that comes in. So all we did in the last year is that we did go strong on overlay last year, and we brought the billing dates tax billing dates back to where they were and should have been for a municipality of this size, right? So we send tax bills out now collectible in October, and in April, some towns do it October and March because of those kind of cash flow issues. So, we can collect maximum twice a year on a fiscal year basis, and the thing that we're trying to avoid is the borrowing any tax anticipation notes. And 2 years ago, we got to the point where we at least had the contract written up with Biddeford Savings to initiate a tax anticipation loan should we, if we had a delay in the tax collections, if something abnormal happened. So I think that if you look at the flow now, the cash, the balance cash flow in the town, you'll see that it's pretty stabilized now. We consumed what we overlaid last year in this current budget, and we'll make a determination of where we want to make this number. It's not a lot. I mean, it's something that, a swing of $100,000 takes you from being skinny to being healthy. And it's a debate, really, and that's why Jerry makes the recommendation, and we'll chew it
We'll debate it.
over.
I give them 3 recommendations. The only other thing too is if something happens, God forbid, that state municipal revenue sharing number is all of a sudden emergency reduction, which I don't expect. But if that number changed, it would change drastically.
Right.
The rest of
And
it.
the risk on line 13 was excise tax. We had seen a significant drop in excise tax, and it's still down from where, if you go back 4 years ago, we were collecting $1,150,000 in excise tax. We're now down into the $990 or $950 range. So, we lost 10, 12% of excise tax collections. We didn't know whether that was going further south or anything else,
So the discussion at town meeting with the amount that was raised, we were guessing somewhere around a 10% property tax increase, correct?
We were talking in the neighborhood of the 1160 number based on what Jerry has laid out here, all right? Which would put us at about a $237,000 overlay.
But it's possible that our taxes could go up as much as 15% if you want a higher overlay. Is that how I'm understanding
I'm not sure
this?
it'd be 15. What's
You
the
mean-
maximum it could go is 1185,
Mhm.
all right, by state law.
Which is 5% above what was
5%,
raised.
about 5% above the absolute minimum that has to be collected.
And the
So-
absolute minimum was right around 10% at town meeting.
No.
No.
Well, if you get, what are we now, Jerry? We're 1060,
And,
Right.
1060.
so if you took 11,
So that's,
let's just take 1185, right, which is the maximum.
1060, 1185,
That is 11.7% increase over our current tax rate. If we went 1185, it would be 11.8, rounded up, percent increase over where we are today. So the 1160 is more in line to what we had talked about.
and we're at 1060 for fiscal year 2010?
Yep. Which is 9.4%. The 1160 is 9.4%. And that would put us in an overlay range of about 237,000. And we may very well, that discussion, and it'll be, let's set it at, let's have a $250,000 overlay number, or, I think you can play all kinds of scenarios based on what we think is going to happen. We need to do that in the next month or so, but ultimately you try to, it's like the state has a bunch of people predicting revenue, right? We can control revenue only to the extent that we can set a tax rate, and then you kind of, anticipate everybody's gonna pay their taxes. So, that's kind of the wild card.
And the surplus appears to penalize those that do pay their taxes, because the ones that don't pay it, well, they just simply don't pay it.
Well, I don't think it penalizes anyone more so than anyone else. Ultimately, whatever that number is, we're gonna use a prudent amount of that number next year when we go through the budgeting process.
That's another thing too, those that do not pay, last year had to pay a 9% late interest fee.
Right.
Which over and above the tax, which is calculated on a daily basis. This year it'll only be 7%, but anyway, if you are late, the longer you wait to pay, the more the town will make on the interest.
Yeah, the piece of it that comes into play is that, and I think what we looked at was the collection in the past 2 years have been almost identical percentage-wise. So we've ended the last 2 fiscal years with percentage-wise the same amount of overdue taxes, which is, given the economy, pretty reasonable. Okay, we don't have a lot of people not paying the taxes. Now granted, the way that mortgages and everything else today make it a lot easier because they're built into the mortgage payments and that, and we get checks from banks, okay, instead of from a lot of homeowners, but it's still, and in fact, I think if you go back 3 years, you probably see the same within probably a couple of tenths of percentages of the same collection rate. So even though the economy's in the kind of in the tank and has been, the tax revenues, I think where we've seen it is the fees are down, and certainly the building fees are down, certainly excise tax. Those are all decisions that people make, right? I'm not going to buy a new car, or I am going to buy a new car, or I'm going to build on the house, or I'm not going to build a house.
Anything else? Jerry, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So that takes care of the workshop.
We get the low-tech point. It's very effective, I might add.
Is there anything else that anyone wanted to add as part of the workshop? Clint, anything you wanted to comment on budgeting? What's going on with the transfer station? Anything along those lines? Ruth,
It's a hot topic.
it's hot, yeah. Ruth, anything with the library? Thank you. All right, we'll move on to other business, warrants for bills and payroll.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor? Minutes from 6:29 and 7:20.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Okay. Pending decisions, we have map 41, lot 13. We're going to have
That's
that.
due for a final presentation next Tuesday.
Okay.
And for those of you that missed the highlight, Bob Gobiel was the passenger on my motorcycle when we went through town, going up to the dam to look over that triangular piece of property. And he certainly enjoyed himself.
Where was Frank when you really needed a picture?
I know.
Nobody called me.
May need to relive that
Well, we
scene.
drove right by Lakeside and Merrill's and everything, so it's,
I met them and I go, who was that on the back of his bike? It looked like Bob. No.
yeah, it was.
He wasn't flashing or anything.
No, he didn't do the t-shirt
Natural
thing.
beads though.
Oh, jeez. Discussion of agenda items for next week. We'll have the map 41, lot 13 discussion. I won't be here next week, so we'll need a chair pro temp. We have an appointment scheduled with Jerry to come in next week for the costs related to collection of personal property taxes and arrears. Dave was going to have an amended transfer station recycling committee ordinance together for first review. We had public service announcements on the lobby monitors. We had to discuss the engineering study on the old Alfred Road. With that, the road review committee was meeting at 6 o'clock tonight. to do a site walk down there with Doug Foglio, and then they're going to be having their next meeting on August 11th to discuss. Jim was going to get back to me, but I know we wanted to have them here for the 3rd. He's not sure if they want to be here on the 3rd or potentially ask that that be postponed until the 17th so that they can have their regular meeting and have time to discuss what they discovered tonight and digest that information. So if they request we postpone that to the 17th, we'll know within the next day or so. Is the board agreeable to that?
I'd rather have them come with a recommendation rather than have them not ready.
Yeah. So we'll play that one by ear until Friday. Anything else for the agenda for next week? No. Okay, items needing signature, warrants for bills and payroll, some journal entries, the minutes for 6/29 and 7/20. Reminders, Wednesday, July 28th at 7 p.m. is the Land Trust meeting at Town Hall. Thursday, July 29th at 6 p.m. is the Selectmen goal-setting session here at the Town Hall Annex. Also on Thursday, the 29th at 6 p.m. is the York County mitigation meeting at the Fire Department, Central Station. Monday, August 2nd at 6 p.m. is the Water District Trustees meeting. And Tuesday, August 3rd, 6 p.m. is the Selectmen's meeting at the Town Hall Annex, and reporting will be the Economic Development Committee. Nothing else? I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor? Right, thank you.